Good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Welcome tonight to the Conscious Contact Speakers Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Tim, and I'm an alcoholic. Hey, this is a 1-hour speakers meeting. It meets every Saturday evening here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, PA, every Saturday at 8:30, except for last Saturday because we had a blizzard. We record all our speakers here so that others may benefit from the message of hope and recovery. If you wish to not be recorded, please simply ask Ron. He will, I'm sure, be more than happy to adhere to that. This is an open meeting of AA. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially any newcomers to our group. If there's anyone here who is new or from out of town, would you like to introduce yourselves tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Adrian. I'm from Riverton, New Jersey. Good to be here.
Welcome, Adrian. Sir.
Ken, Morgan, New Jersey.
Welcome, Ken. Welcome, Jesse. Thank you for coming. Yes, sir.
Dale, alcoholic, visited from Chester County.
Very good. Welcome, Dale. Yes, ma'am. Very good. Nice to have you, Gwen. In the back, sir. Welcome, Dustin. Yes, ma'am.
Kim from Herkimer, New York.
Thank you. Now I know how to say that name. Very good. Welcome. Yes. Eminem. Welcome, Eminem. Any others tonight? Yes, sir. Dan, welcome tonight. Sir. Welcome, Tom. Any others? Excellent. If you have any questions about tonight's event and would like to make this your home group, please see me or Ron or Luli or any other member of the Conscious Contact group. We do encourage anyone who would like to be involved in sponsorship. So if anyone who has a working knowledge of the 12 steps and would be willing to work as a sponsor, please raise your hand now. Fantastic. If you're a newcomer, those hands are a good sign that you got some help in the room. Are there any announcements tonight for the good of AA? Okay. We have a meeting list and big books, and all those things are available for you on easy terms. Please see Ron or any other member of the home group. If you cannot afford a big book or any other type of info, please see Ron. We'll make sure we get you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for big books, any kind of printed material or CDs of all the recordings, please. There's a bucket in the back, and it looks rather empty, so do your best tonight before you leave. If you would like any CD of tonight's speaker or any speaker in the past, Ron has got all those things available. Please see him. He'll add you to his list. Next time he sees you, he's got his trunk is full of CDs. So be sure you see him. He'll be happy. He'll be happy to make that available. I'd like to now introduce Luli, who's going to read the preamble tonight.
Hi, I'm Luli. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, Luli. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I've asked Eric to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eric. I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, saw through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Thank you, guys. Welcome again. We have a seventh tradition here. Each AA group ought to be self-supporting. We decline outside contributions from any group. So this time we'd like to pass the baskets. As you know, we have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses. I'd like to mention that there's absolutely no smoking on the church property. Seems to be things are going better with that, but please, if you need to smoke across the street, either to the north, east, south, or west. I'd like to take a moment to introduce a very good friend of the Conscious Contact group. He comes to us by way of the Outsiders group. It's his home group. From Herkimer, New York, Mr. Scott T. Welcome, sir.
Hey everybody, I'm Scott Trenner. I am an alcoholic. Oh, I love the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I love the people, and I always start off and say it has not always been like that. It's a privilege and an honor to be here in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Never been in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I think I'd like to start off and tell you that you're never going to have a better sobriety date than the one you got. So you might as well keep it, okay? You're never going to have the best story in AA, so you might as well keep that one too. I didn't hear those things almost 44 years ago now, when I first came in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd like to thank Ron for getting a hold of me and getting me here. We've been trying to put this thing together for about a year and a half, and he kept calling me, and I wondering how the hell he got my name, and he's freaking tracking me down in Texas and all these places I'm at. And 7 months ago, he's reminding me that I'm speaking here in January, and that's one thing, we get introduced as speakers and stuff, and I don't like to think of myself as a speaker. I like to think of myself as a talker. Our big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says that it's one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic. No lectures to endure, no axes to grind. I'm not here to speak to you. I'm here to talk to you about this terrible malady, this illness that's really misunderstood in the world and even in Alcoholics Anonymous. I had a lot of misconceptions when I first came into AA 44 years ago on what alcoholism was and what alcoholism wasn't, what Alcoholics Anonymous was and what Alcoholics Anonymous wasn't. I would hear things like, just don't drink and go to meetings, and meeting makers make it. And I don't know about you, but that information is just killing me, because I'm having the best of intentions coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, making a decision that my life's a little messed up. I'm already getting arrested as a teenager and drunken disorderly conduct. I'm having blackouts. We got any blackout drinkers here? Got a few? Any projectile pukers? Yeah. That's me, and I'm coming into AA trying to find a better way, hearing things like just don't drink. I didn't understand even at that young age that I was in an absolute fight for my life, that alcohol was gonna rob from me any goal, dream, aspiration I ever had as a kid, the things I wanted to do, the things I wanted to become. I didn't understand that when I put alcohol in my body, I was trying to overcome an obsession I had no control over. Okay, and that drink was going to demand another drink. We call it the allergy of the body coupled with the obsession of the mind that affects us spiritually, physically, and mentally. It talks in our book about that we'll blot things out and go on to the bitter end, okay? And the way the steps work, the way the big book worked, when we admit that we're alcoholic, that our lives are unmanageable, I could admit that I had a problem to the probation officer, to the judge, to my mom, but I never accepted that to my innermost self because I really felt that I was too young. And you hear different people that get up and they talk about that spring that's inside of us that's just going down, and we're not going to drink and we're not going to drink. And that's what it really was for me, because I would have the best of intentions coming into AA that I'm not going to drink until you upset me or she upset me or the boss or my mom or whoever, and I would drink. And then I could just breathe. You know, I love it because you hear people say when they drank, they grew 6 feet tall, their pimples fell off, they could talk to girls, they could dance. That's not my story. My story was that I could just breathe, you know, because I really believed I was in a world I didn't belong. And if you just leave me alone, one day this and one day that, I'm gonna conquer the world, you know, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be a rock and roll star, all this stuff. And the delusions of grandeur. You know, I grew up in that alcoholic environment that our book talks about, the warped lives of blameless wives and children, the sweet relationships that get dead. And I didn't understand that this was really a family illness, okay? And I grew up in the projects. I know what it's like to stand in line and get blocks of cheese and powdered milk, and the police always at my house taking my dad away, and the bruises on my mom in the morning and the screams at night, not understanding what was going on. I just knew I didn't like my dad, and I was never going to be like him. I got introduced to Alateen first. And Alateen is for children of alcoholics. And I would take the trains into South Boston and go to these Alateen meetings. I didn't get anything out of Alateen because the truth is I didn't want anything out of Alateen. You know, Alateen was a place for me to go and manipulate and get you to feel sorry for me in the way I was being raised. And so I didn't get anything out of Alateen. I went to Al-Anon, you know, with my mom. We got any Al-Anons here? You? We're still going to try to have fun, okay? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I love it when you ask if there's Al-Anons in the audience because a few people, I mean, you were never shy before, but all of a sudden you ask them in a meeting and they're like shy. But I would go to Al-Anon meetings with my mom. This is like in 69, 70, and there were no men in Al-Anon, okay? Al-Anon was just a bunch of women, to me, that sat around the table and complained about their husbands. And my dad would sit down the street and drink and follow us home and beat my mom up and call her a whore and who was she meeting there. He didn't know or understand that she was just trying to find a better way to raise her 4 boys. You know, he didn't understand that. I didn't understand any of that. And then that first arrest that I had was at a church dance, and I love it because I was talking recently, and how did I start drinking so young? The drinking age was 18. But growing up in the neighborhood, you know, Irish Catholic neighborhood, and this is back in the 60s, my dad would be so drunk, would pull up to what was called a package store. And he'd pull up to the packy, and he was so drunk he couldn't get out and go in and buy himself a 6-pack. And so I would go in, and I'm 8, 9, 10 years old, going in, buying a 6-pack of beer for him. And I'd put it on the counter. The clerk would say, "Who's that for?" I'd say, "My dad." "Where's your dad?" "He's in the car." He'd look out, and he'd sell me the beer, and I'd walk out. And after doing that several times, you know, we're not stupid people. You know, we're some of us pretty quick studies. And I'm 13 years old, 12 years old, turning 13, and I had an idea. And so I went to the package store, and I got myself a 6-pack, and I put it on the counter. They said, "Who's that for?" I said, "My dad. He sold it to me." I walked out. Instead of taking a right, I took a left, ended up drinking it at a church dance, ended up getting arrested for assault and battery on a police officer and drunken disorderly conduct. They said, "Where'd you get the beer?" I said, "I bought it." Okay? They thought I was lying. I was telling the truth. I bought it. But I got sentenced to Alcoholics Anonymous, okay? And I went into that young people's group, a Quincy Bay group in North Quincy, and the youngest young person was like 30. I know we got a lot of young people here tonight. And the youngest young person was like 30. And they talked about losing cars and homes and families and going to jail and car accidents. I didn't even have a driver's license. I couldn't relate to these people. And I talk about customs all over the country because how they did it back then, this is when the second edition was still around. Bill Wilson it was just dying, actually. And they would interview people. So, like a few people raised their hand earlier. If you identified as a newcomer, the old-timers would get you after the meeting and interview you, just to make sure you belonged. And so I had to raise my hand, say that I was new, and at the end of that meeting, a lot of the old-timers grabbed me, and they started questioning me, and you hear all the jokes and stuff, "Oh, you got to watch, you can't be an alcoholic, I spilled more than you could have drank." All that stuff was said to me. And when I say the old-timers, I'm talking about the guys with like 90 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. The people that really knew the program, okay? Their response said, "Go talk to this kid," right? And they basically precluded me from AA. They said that I was too young, that I was more of the juvenile delinquent type, okay? And that if I could learn to deal with my anger, I might be okay. And so I love it because in chapter 3, it talks about the experimentation, the self-deception that will prove ourselves exceptions to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic, and that many of us pursue this into the gates of insanity or death. I use those things as excuses to keep going out there and drinking because even you said I didn't belong. I was too young. But I had to go because of the court. Bottom line here is all through the early 70s on, it was just one jackpot after another, Skid Row, eating out of dumpsters and trash cans at 16, detoxes, 14 years old, I'm in detoxes, and my liver and pancreas are all inflamed. Scared Straight program, where they would take juveniles at risk and they'd put you in these big prisons with these big tough convicts with tattoos all over their body. Sort of like a couple guys looking here tonight, But, come here, boy, give me your shoes. I'm going to bend you over when I get you in here. And they'd tell you all this stuff that they're going to do to you. No, seriously, you're laughing, but that's identification, okay? Just saying. But they would do that to try to scare you straight so that you didn't act that way. And it was all a game to me. I didn't get anything from those programs, and I'm just in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. You hear things like work the steps and get a sponsor, someone you can relate to. And I don't know about you, but I really didn't relate to anybody because I'm so different and unique. And but I was starting to pay the price, okay? I never read the book, never worked the steps, never had a sponsor. I'm starting to pay the price. And I figured I'd do something different. Maybe I'll get a sponsor. Maybe I'll work these steps that I'm hearing about. And this guy got up and he took a 4-year anniversary medallion. And how it worked in Boston at the time was, what's your name? Dan. Let's say Dan's my sponsor. Dan is going to get up here tonight and tell you all about me. Okay? Dan's going to tell you about the steps that I've taken this past year, the community involvement, not just AA, but the community involvement, the things I'm doing as a person and growing spiritually. And then I would get up and say a few words. And so this guy, Fred, was taking an anniversary medallion. And his sponsor got up and said all this wonderful stuff about him. And then Fred got up and he looked at his medallion. And he's looking at it and he says, I was really nervous this morning when I woke up because I knew I was going to have to get up here in front of all you people. So I smoked a joint to take the edge off. Okay? And he went on. And the meeting got over and everybody clapped. And I got to tell you, I love what Fred had to say, okay? So I could relate to that. So I went up to Fred and asked him to be my sponsor. That was my first experience with sponsorship in Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, make no mistake here, okay? Years later, when I finally read that book, when I finally took the prescription that's outlined in the book, Dr. Silkworth closes all those loopholes. When he says that we can't take alcohol in any form, and that the only treatment we have to offer is complete abstinence, okay, that's a little, marijuana maintenance, a little social heroin, whatever your trip is, that's not sobriety. And I didn't know those things. See, what I came for looking in Alcoholics Anonymous, I came looking with. I had this false perception of reality here, okay? Remember, I'm selfish, I'm self-centered, I'm self-seeking, self-pity, driven by these 100 forms of fear and self-delusions. I'm still making decisions based on me, which are placing me in the position to be hurt by so-called what I think people in AA. Water seeks its own level, and I was not looking for a 12-step solution to a soul sickness I didn't think I had. I just had some bad luck, okay? And if you just leave me alone, I'm going to be okay. Well, you know what happened. It didn't work. I'd have the best of intention, and I'm loaded again, and one thing after another. And just to fast forward here real quick, would have been 1978. I ended up getting a girl pregnant. I married her, high school sweetheart of mine, and that's what you did back then is you got married. You didn't, you were responsible, and I didn't even know what responsibility was. And I'm married. 2 weeks later, it didn't work out. She's back home, and I'm in the combat zone. Anybody ever been to Boston? I'm in the combat zone, red light district, and we're rolling prostitutes and, running and gunning and doing all that stuff. And I got arrested for armed robbery. I'm an adult now, though, okay? And I got put in the Charles Street jail, the oldest jail in New England, 5 tiers. I walked in like that Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder movie, Stir Crazy. That's right, we bad. And I walked in, a guy got thrown off the 5th tier and killed. It scared me to death. Because I had heard what they did to cute little punks when they got you in those places, okay? And I was cute, okay? I had long hair, and I was cute, and I was afraid what they were going to do to me. And long story short, I got bailed out. I went home, and the big book talks about the jumping off point, okay? That there'll be those of us that choose to make the supreme sacrifice and to continue the fight. And it's talking about suicide. You know, I couldn't picture life with alcohol or without alcohol. This life that I was living had become the only normal one, and I didn't see a way out. And I was just so very, very alone. You know, and they say this is a disease of loneliness, deep down that nothing can touch. And that's what I felt. Our souls become really dark. And I just decided I didn't want to live like that. I was facing 8 to 10 years in prison, and I just didn't want to go to prison or anything. And I went to this little dingy apartment that I had, and I ended up climbing in the bathtub, and I sliced my wrists all the way down. I was loaded when I did it, and next morning when I was found, I had bled out, and 5 days later I came to on the critical list. And you know, you hear people joke about that they can't even do that right, and that's what I felt. I couldn't even die. I couldn't even do that right. And I found myself in a psych ward, strapped to the bed, getting pumped full of lithium, thorazine, chloral hydrate, Haldol. You know, my friend Jim Buckley talks about the homes of the bewildered, and I'm making the rounds to the homes of the bewildered now, and they're diagnosing me as suicidal, homicidal, manic depressive, and you know, I'm fighting this case. I ended up beating this case. There was another suicide attempt there, and I found myself in Medfield State Hospital strapped to the bed, and this woman came and saw me, and she told me about this guy named Jesus Christ. That if I accepted him as my personal Savior, behold, everything would be new. Okay? Now, I don't know about you, but alcoholics of my type, we go from one extreme to the next. We're either really, really good or we're really, really bad. And she's telling me about this loving, caring God. See, I was born and raised Irish and Catholic, you know, catechism, first communion, all that stuff. And my aunt was a nun who said that she was going to castrate me if I kept screwing up. I didn't even know what castration meant, right? And so I had these false perceptions or whatever of what God was on that throne. And she's telling me about this loving guy and he could forgive me. And so I went for it, okay? And I ended up going into this program called Teen Challenge, okay? And I quit swearing, smoking, watching TV, listening to rock and roll. I started going to Bible studies, 7 hours a day, church 7 days a week. I entered the ministry. I was going to become a preacher. I started traveling New England, giving my testimony how Christ had saved my life. I became what you call a Bible thumper, okay? And I'd be in churches and revivals and rooms as big as this, and people would be talking in tongues and passing out and getting filled with the Spirit, and I'm that square peg just trying to fit. I'm trying to be a part of it. These Christians had something in their eyes. I didn't quite know what it was. It's sort of like some of these old-timers you see around here. They got that shit-eating grin, They got something in their eyes that you want. You just don't know what it is. And these Christians had it, and I just wanted to be a part of this so bad. I'm 3 months into this program, and I go into the revival, and like I said, I'm not stupid, right? So what I'm going to do is I want to be a part of it. I'm going to get filled with the Spirit like they do, and I'm going to fall out. And so I'd be in a revival, and I'd get filled with the Spirit, and I'd fall out. Man, I was hurting my back and my neck. I'm getting hurt, right? These guys aren't getting hurt. This is a real spiritual experience for them. But see, I'm acting. What does our book say? Okay, I'm an actor, okay? I can be more demanding or more gracious, whichever the case is. I'm still trying to get my way. And so I'm acting and I'm getting hurt. And so I'm not going to do that anymore, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk in tongues, okay? That's what I'm going to do. Now, this is all up here, right? So I'd be in the revival and I would get filled and I'd start talking in tongues. Now, I'm making this up. Okay, you got to follow me here because I call this my throne of judgment. Because I'm making this stuff up, and Dale over here starts interpreting what the Spirit's telling him I'm saying. So I know he's full of shit. Okay? See, because I'm full of shit, right? Now this is all up here. Now this whole thing is full of shit. This is all up here. And so I wake up in this program. Okay? 3 months I wake up and I had that moment of clarity. That we get. My moment was, you know what, Scotty? You're still full of shit. That was my moment. See, the first step, the way the big book is written from the doctor's opinion, just basically to page 63 deal with a couple of things, and really only a couple of things. They're conclusions of my mind. That's what they are. Is that I'm alcoholic. Okay, my life's unmanageable. Unmanageability simply means not achieving one's purpose. I have to concede that to myself, to my innermost self. Then I have to came to believe that, not in, but that a power, that this power is going to restore me to sanity. I used to think it was talking about the sanity of the world, okay, not the insanity of the first drink. Really what it's meant to. See, when this mind will convince this mind that it's okay to drink again, knowing the jackpots, the things that I've done, the things I've been a part of, that I can convince myself to drink again. That's the insanity that I'm trying to be restored from. to sanity so I don't pick up that first drink. And then making the decision that I'm going to turn my thoughts and my actions, my will and my life over to this power. Okay? This power is going to help me so that I don't do that. Remember, the main object is to show me, the main purpose is to show me precisely how to recover from this disease. The main object is to enable me to find the power that's going to solve me this problem I got, which is alcoholism. See, and I woke up and I had subconsciously done those steps, those first 3 steps. What I had never done was a fearless and thorough moral inventory of myself, though. Let it alone admit it to somebody. I was never going to admit any of the stuff that I did in my past. Okay? But see, I woke up this morning, and the stuff that was inside me was like gangrene. And I knew if I didn't get it out, it was going to absolutely kill me. And so I liken it to a cup of coffee, that you could take a cup of coffee right now, black coffee, go put it underneath the sink and drip cool, clear water into it. And at the end of the meeting, look inside that cup, and it's still going to be dark and dirty inside. See, and that's what I was. I was trying to put all this good stuff inside me, but what was inside me was dark and dirty. I didn't understand that the way the 4th and 5th steps are designed is to dump that stuff so that maybe I can retain some of this good stuff that AA is trying to teach me. Religion, whatever it is that your positiveness is, your spirituality is, that we can retain some of this. And I'm trying to put good stuff into me that I'm still full of crap. And I went to the director of the program and I said, listen, I got to get this stuff out. I need to get some of this stuff out. And he said that I didn't, that I had been forgiven through the power of Christ Jesus. And didn't I believe that? And I said, yeah. And so now we're in this battle, and the scriptures are coming out that I have the strength to face all conditions through the power of Christ. Now we're arguing. See, now I'm trying to get this stuff out, and we're arguing about the necessity of that. And so what happened was, the bottom line, our 12-12 talked about defiance being one of our chief character traits, and my defiance came out, and I told him what he could do with his program. Okay, that's what I did. Told him to stick his program. And I walked away from it. And I went back into the project with the firm conviction, I know I got a problem, I know I'm alcoholic, I'm not going to drink anymore, I'm just going to smoke a little weed, okay, because that's really not my problem. Okay. Now remember, I don't say that to disrespect Alcoholics Anonymous at all. This was my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous. See, back then, you didn't talk about drugs from the podium. It's an outside issue. Even though our book talks about gin and sedatives, and which are what? Drugs and alcohol, right? The magic elixir. I'm trying to put all this stuff in so I can drink more, drink less, and all this other stuff. But back then, if you talked anything about drugs from the podium, you'd literally get pulled down. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. That's an outside issue. Okay? See, I'm an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. And when I drink, I'm a garbage pail, and I put anything and everything into me to try to make me drink more or drink less. And so the misconceptions I had with AA, I'm well aware of our traditions and our singleness of purpose and our primary purpose and everything else. I don't talk about this to disrespect AA, but to tell you my experience in AA, because that was at the time, okay, I thought that was okay. No one had ever told me that wasn't okay. And some of my peers in AA did that. And so I thought that was okay. Now, what I had missed is back in 1972, I was told that the man takes a drink, the drink takes a drink, and the drink takes the man. Okay? In other words, when I took that drink, for whatever reason, whatever insanity, I had no defense against it except in a few rare occasions, which is willpower, and I drank again, I set up that phenomenon of craving that differentiated me from normal people, and that drink demanded another drink, and then the drink took me one more time. And I'm off and running one more time, wondering how this happened. Okay? November 14th, fast forward to 1979. I tell this story to show the cunning, baffling, and powerfulness of alcoholism, because I found myself sitting on this bridge called the Cape Cod, Bourne Bridge in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, 169 feet up. So very alone again, suicidal. You know, my son was born, couldn't see him. We're divorced. We're going through this divorce. Just the insanity again. Can't stop drinking. Want to stop, can't stop. You know, they say this is not for a program that people that want it, that need it, is for people that want it. My experience, which I'll talk a little later about, is this is a program for people that do it. Okay, it's a program of action. Any part that leaves the physical is incomplete. I was not physically sober. Therefore, I'm not thinking right because I'm putting alcohol in my body. I'm sitting on this bridge wondering what the hell am I going to do, replaying my life. Resentment, the number one offender. Latin word, resentare, refeel, rethink, replay. That's what I'm doing, sitting on this bridge with my life. 4.5 hours I was up there. State police blocked off the bridge. The Corps of Engineer and Coast Guard were down in the canal with spotlights on me. The Suicide Prevention League talking to me on bullhorns, trying to talk me down. And campground, all these campers came out and set up lawn chairs and stuff. And they're yelling at me, "Jump, you motherfucker, jump!" Right? And I'm looking down at these guys, going, "Man, they're crazy. Don't they know if I jump, I'll die?" This is what I'm thinking in my head. And I thought I had tried just about everything, and I'm thinking of how the West was won and the Indian Sioux chief, today's a good day to die. Just the delusions, right? And, Dillinger and King Arthur's court, I would have been a great knight. I was born in a different time, and I mean, just all these things that we think about, and I'm thinking all the bad stuff growing up, not good stuff, I mean, I did a lot of good stuff. I had good morals and values taught to me as a kid and growing up, and I was a Boy Scout. I joke sometimes, trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I remember those things. But see, I'm thinking of things sitting on this bridge, like my dad, I had mentioned earlier, was that alcoholic, okay? I had saved a kid's life when I was like 9 years old, and I got honored by the House of Representatives, got a plaque and all that stuff. And what I'm remembering sitting on this bridge was being on a stage getting this award and my dad being drunk and not showing up, okay? I'm thinking of getting caught sneaking out and coming home from school one day, and my dad grabbed me by the back of the neck and marching me to my room, and he had a lock on the outside of the door, okay? And he threw me in my room with a milk jug and the top cut off and locked me in. And the room was so dark I couldn't see, and I got my light and I turned it on. He had taken my window and sheet metaled and riveted it, okay? And would let me out in the morning to go to school, lock me in at night. Now, I know people think of that as child abuse. I got to be honest, and at the time, I didn't think of that as child abuse. That was the price of getting caught, okay? I had uncles that were cops, Quincy cops and stuff, and they knew what was going on, and that was just the price for getting caught. But this is what I'm thinking about sitting on this bridge, and I just didn't want to live, okay? And I had that moment of clarity again that we get. And I realized I really didn't want to die. There's got to be something out here. There's got to be something I haven't tried. And I decided I was going to get down. And this is where the cunning, baffling, and powerfulness of this disease took over, because I had another thought, and I had an honest thought. And the thought that jumped into my head was that, you know what, Scotty, if you get down, you're going to look like a pussy to all these people that have waited all this time for you to jump. You got to jump. And so I turned and I jumped, okay? I don't remember hitting. They say I died. The only bone I broke was my sternum bone, my chest cavity, and that was from them giving me the pericardial thumbs, bringing me back to life, okay? I found myself, a couple things real quick here. I'm going to fast forward real quick. Would have been about 14 years ago, I was giving a talk in Middleborough, Massachusetts, about 20 miles from this bridge that I just talked about. And my mom, older brother, younger brother, two of my younger brothers, sister-in-law, a lot of people were there, family, that grew up in this insanity with me, okay? And I was giving a talk, and I talked about the experience with the bridge. And so the meeting got over, and this guy comes busting through the crowd, and he goes, "Oh, I owe you an amends, I owe you an amends." And I looked at this guy, I said, "Dude, I don't even know you." He goes, "No, you wouldn't." He goes, "We were at the bar in Toby, and it came across the scanners that they had a jumper." He goes, "So I rolled some weed, we got some Jack Daniels." He goes, "And that was me yelling at you to jump." He goes, "And you did, right?" He goes, "And you did, right?" And he had like 10 years sober, okay? So about 9 years ago, I'm giving a talk in Palm Springs, California. Keith Carpenter, I don't know if you ever heard of Keith Carpenter, but I'm out there at the ABC Club in Palm Springs, and I'm giving a talk, and I talk about the bridge, and I talk about that guy that come up to me. that meeting got over, and this guy comes through. They have like a receiving line. This guy comes through, suit and tie, real distinguished look, and he takes my hand. He goes, I always wondered what happened to you. And I looked at him, and I go, sir, I'm sorry. I don't know you. He goes, no, you wouldn't. He goes, I was the captain of the state police barracks in Buzzards Bay that called out all the rescue vehicles for you. He goes, and they said you had died, and they'd come over the stuff. He goes, and then they were transporting you to the house. He goes, I never knew what happened to you. He goes, I was a practicing alcoholic at the time. He had 20 years sober then. And I thought, you hear joking like, is that odd or is that God, right, and stuff. But you got 3 different people, 3 different walks of life at the same event, all sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous. I get goosebumps. That's a trip, right? But I wasn't done. So I'm no quitter, right? No, so, oh, God. I ended up, it's one jackpot again and everything after another, but I ended up, I'm looking at the time, I ended up going to California, the land of golden opportunity, Hollywood. I'm going out there, right? But I never made it. I made it as far as Pennsylvania, Wilkes-Barre, and I ended up joining the Army, the United States Army, because that's what I needed was discipline, right? That's what in my mind I thought. In my Army career, 6-month Army career, I had 4 Article 15s. I was on the Benninghouse program of alcoholism, taking hand abuse every morning in front of the CO, right? And I ended up getting a Chapter 5 honorable discharge, unfit for military life. Went up to Massachusetts, didn't work, out to California. Finally made it to California, okay? I was out there 6 days, and I came out of a blackout. And I was in L.A. County Jail. And I heard a saying real quick, and that's that you come on vacation and you leave on probation. The only problem was I wasn't leaving. And before that whole ordeal was over, I had 22 years sentencing in the state penitentiary in California. Okay? And I'm a young guy, and I come from one of the most racial capitals of the country, which was Boston. We had forced busing, Judge Sirica, all that stuff growing up in the 60s and 70s. And I go into California penitentiaries, and it's nothing but a human kennel that bred violence. And I let it breed the violence in me, and I became an absolute animal. And all the things that you hear happen in there happened, and I ended up making it up to this institution called Tehachapi, and I was invited to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, and I had been in AA 10 years at this time, and I thought, what the hell, I'll go. And I sat in the back. I had my Bonnaroos on, my bandana, and I'm sitting there, and the meeting started. They had Southern California H&I, hospital and institution people that were on panels. And the meeting started, and they read a portion of Chapter 5 from the Big Book on how it works. And I'm sitting there going, oh, that's how it works. I've been in AA 10 years, never heard how it works. Now, remember the customs and the traditions. That wasn't read at meetings. Okay, that tradition actually started in Southern California. You didn't do any readings in Boston area when you went to a meeting. This is the conscious contact group, but you would have another group come in and lead your meeting. And the meeting would start, no readings. People would speak from the other group. Meeting would end, Lord's Prayer, and you're done. That was it. These weren't on the walls. Nothing. When people would talk about the program, I was so young and naive, I would think of like the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus program. When someone was going to give me a program, okay? They never gave me a program. I didn't know, I'm being honest here, I did not know the program was in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know that. And so now all of a sudden I'm at this meeting, been in AA 10 years, and they're reading a portion of 5 chapter from the Big Book on how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who's thoroughly followed our path, right? And they're reading this, and I'm going, that's how it works. And then they read more about alcoholism, through that experimentation, that they're talking about me. And I was pursuing it into the gates of insanity or death. And then they read the steps and the traditions. And I had heard the steps. I had never heard the traditions. And then this guy got up. His name was Eddie Miracle. And he said, if you're new, you've come home. You need never be alone again. You're like the prodigal son who had to venture out there. And now you're home. And I'm cynical. And I'm saying, no, Eddie Miracle, that's a cute AA name. Like Ice Cream Bobby and all this other stuff. You got these nicknames, right? But that was his real name, Eddie Miracle. And he started talking about this guy named Chuck Chamberlain, okay, and that we're all children of God. And for me to love you for your color, you not for your color, that there's no room for hypocrites in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Either we're all God's kids or none of us are. And what I'm just simply really saying here is he started talking a lot of these spiritual truths. And I believe luck and chance was passing me by, and I reached up and I grabbed onto it. Okay? And the meeting ended, and they read a vision for you, and I'm not going to recite it here for you, but you all know what it says. It's on page 164, and it talks about the book being meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. And they're reading that, and I'm going, oh, that's so good. Where are they getting this, right? I didn't know. And you hear people joke that, I really came to a few fundamental beliefs since that time, is that if you want to hide something from the alcoholic, put it in the book, right? They'll never find it because it's the least read book in the rooms. Where I came from, it was. Don't know about here. And, I got sober. And I worked the steps. And I became a gentleman, a gentleman. And I started progressing. And I went to school. And I went through a couple governors. And all the promises and the fear of financial, economic insecurity would leave us with no new freedom and a new happiness. All the stuff started coming true for me inside the wall. I got tattoos all over my body. I was really racial. I rode really, really hard. And now all of a sudden I'm living this spiritual life inside the walls, and I'm not affiliating, and all the things just started changing for me. And I went for this underwater diving program, okay, and I ended up coming second in over 11 institutions and got accepted into this program. Now, when we get up here and we talk and we share a little experience, strength, and hope, and what we were like, what happened, what it's like today, we leave a lot out. You get maybe 3%, okay? Well, one of the things that I didn't talk about here was I broke my neck. Okay, I fractured my C2 vertebrae twice through alcoholism in fighting. And at the last minute, I got precluded from that program. And they said that my body wouldn't handle the depths going down because my neck could snap. Okay? And so I was self-supporting through my own contributions out there. I was making 20 cents an hour, okay? And all of a sudden, they put me on this fire crew because all my custodies were down. And I'm up fighting fires up in this Bear Valley campground, and we're cutting trail through there, and the sun's coming up, and there's tent trailers up there, and you can see a couple of girls in there getting dressed, right? Not see them, but you can see the outline, and they're getting dressed, right? So my buddy and I were up there, and we're clearing this area, and this real cute little girl comes out, long dark hair, and I say, hey, how you doing, right? And she, you think you can make any more noise? And I said, well, we're going to be here all week if you'd like to leave a wake-up call, right? And I'm joking with her. She goes back in and slams the door. So I knew she wanted me, okay? Alcoholics, she looked at me, right? Yeah, she wanted me, right? Well, I go back into my cell that night and I write her a letter. And what I say is my name, and I'm a poor Bostonian. I had been down 4.5 years at that time, hadn't had any conjugal stuff, and I'm on a program of rigorous honesty, and I was wondering if she could meet me in the bathroom for a quickie, okay? That there was no love involved in this. It was strictly lust. And so I was honest about all that. And so I took this letter and I hid it in the bathroom. And so the next day she comes out of the bathroom and I say, hey, there's a letter in there for her, right? So she goes in and gets this letter and goes into the camper and locks herself in there. Don't come out for like 3.5 hours. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I do? Because if she gives it to the cop, they'll rearrest me. Put me in the hole, all this other stuff. You can't have contact with free people. So she comes out and I was just kidding, right? She goes, yeah, you weren't kidding, but no, I can't do that. Okay? So my next tack was, hey, maybe we could be friends. So we started writing. I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Kim, here, okay? This is my wife, Kim. This is 33 years ago now, almost 33 years ago, okay? And we started writing and we became friends. And I ended up paroling and all the, stuff that you hear about plugging into groups. And I was told I owed myself a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know myself a weekend with her. And so if she wanted to be with me, that's what I did. I went to meetings and I started my journey in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I ended up 12-stepping her. I thought she was a normie, and I ended up 12-stepping her into the program. And I married Kim when she had 90 days sober. And she's in her 31st year of sobriety now, okay? And got married, and when I talk about being a talker in AA, I'm going to tell you the difference here. I became a circuit speaker in AA. And I started traveling to conventions and all around the country speaking talking about this 12-step program of recovery, that you too could become whatever you were capable of becoming as long as you were honest and willing enough to try this, okay? And I became a speaker in AA and sponsoring all sorts of people and belonged to the best home group. And my sponsor died, okay? And I didn't get another sponsor because I know AA, okay? I know the program. I know this stuff. I really don't need a sponsor. I had worked all 12 steps. Having had that spiritual experience or awakening as the result of the steps, we try to carry this message. What is this message? It's a message of hope. It's the promise of the freedom of the bondage of self, right? This is what we carry here. When I talk about working the steps in order, I remember the first weekend I was out of the penitentiary, I went into the employment group, and this old-timer was standing up there, and he bangs the podium, and I'm not going to do it because you got these things here, but bangs the podium, and he says, "The elevator to sobriety is broke. You must use the steps." I'm thinking, wow, this guy's off his rocker, right? And he became a real good friend of mine, and much later my sponsor. But, you know, he said they're in line for a reason, okay, and that they're worked in order. And, well, I'm here to tell you tonight, through my experience, that you can give them back in order, too. Okay? Having had that spiritual experience and awakening as a result, I carried this message of hope, the promise of the freedom of the bondage of self. But all of a sudden, I'm not carrying that message anymore. I'm carrying the message of look at me, look at where I came from, look at where I am now. You know, and I joke, what's your name? Danny. I would joke because it would be like, and this is really an example. Me. All right, enough about me. Let's talk about you, Danny. What do you think about me? Right? That's how I'm sharing. I'm talking about me. See, coming from the streets, coming from the projects, coming from the penitentiaries, all that stuff, when I got out of the penitentiary, I started my own business. We got married. We had that house and white picket fencing, children. I joined that rock and roll band I always wanted to join. I became a lead singer of a couple different bands. Okay, I bought a piece of property in Cape Cod. We built a custom home. Our backyard was 300 acres of wildlife conservation. I would fly between L.A. and Boston 4 or 5 times a month, getting picked up by limousine, chauffeured wherever I wanted, right? I mean, this program really works. Okay? More money you could shake a stick at. Okay? 13 cars. I mean, I had it going on. And AA. Right? But now all of a sudden I'm not carrying this message. I'm carrying my message. 11 steps. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve this conscious contact. Right? Gone. Gave it away. Continue to take personal inventory when I'm wrong. Promptly admit it. Gave it away. I started using the big book as a weapon. Not sex. Let's talk about sex. Okay? Who are you to judge me? We're not the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. God's my judge. Now, you hear people talking like that, they're usually doing something they shouldn't be doing, okay? I'm telling you. But see, all of a sudden, right, I'm using the big book as a weapon. Instead of reading the content and the character and the befores and after, okay, I'm starting to justify and rationalize different behaviors. I'd owe Ron an amends. Got to make amends. Ron, I owe you an amends. Well, geez, thanks, God. And I'd walk away. And I'd say, yeah, you son of a bitch, I owe you one, but I ain't giving you one. Now, I wouldn't say that. Now, this is sober in AA with double-digit sobriety. I wouldn't say that to him, though. And I'd walk away. They say in AA we become as sick as our secrets. I started having a lot of secrets in AA, and I'd given the step back. 9th step, 8th step, 7th, 6th. This is the step that separates the men from the boys, the men being the perfect objective, which is of God, and then my objective. I'm back into my objective. Okay? It's 2 of the least understood steps in our program. 2 short paragraphs in the book. Not understanding it's a lifetime process that I'm going to go through. Progress, not perfection. Not even close, right? But here I am, now back into me, back into that self, building all this sickness inside of me, not even understanding it. When it says we have no defense against the first drink except in a few rare occasions, that's talking about willpower. Now, not even understanding I'm on willpower. I'm not drinking. I know I'm an alcoholic. So now I back myself all the way up to the 3rd step. Will and life, right? Thoughts and actions. They're not God-centered. My friend Lou Eller said, Scotty, it's pretty hard for one God to recognize another God. Okay? And make no mistake here. Make no mistake here. Our program teaches, the big book teaches, is that the insanity returns and then we drink. It does not say we drink and then get insane. It talks about the insane thought, the trivial excuse, the reasons, right? And the bottom line here is I drank. I drank. And I turned my back on Alcoholics Anonymous. I turned my back on my wife, my kids. Actually, she got a better attorney. That's another story. But I had several restaurants at the time. I got restraining orders against me. I can't even go in the restaurant. You talk about pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. I couldn't even go in to eat. I'm down to 129 pounds. That's 120 pounds less than I am right now. I'm down to 129 pounds, all sucked up, okay? Doing all those outside issues that aren't outside issues. Okay, looking out the window for the bush people, right? Okay, because they're there. And I'm trying to get sober, and I can't get sober, and I'm coming into AA, and well-meaning, well-intentioned people, you done now? You got enough arrows in your ass now? Okay, oh, Mr. Circuit Speaker, can I be your sponsor? You know, and I'd say no, and I'd walk out the door and I'd get drunk. See, I know what it's like. I know what it's like. You're sitting in here 10, 11 days, and you make a decision, you're done. You don't want to drink anymore. I'm done. And then walking out the door and getting drunk anyway. Big book refers to it as this type of thinking. That when it's fully established in the alcoholic, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid, and that unless locked up, he may die or go permanently insane. And that's where I put myself. I love it in Bill's story when he says, one who had thought so highly of himself. One who had thought so highly of himself, and I couldn't get sober. I wanted to get sober. I needed to get sober. But see, I wasn't, that's why I always point out, if you leave out the physical part, it's incomplete because I wasn't physically sober. And to make a whole long story short, Christmas night, 1996, which would be 20 years ago this year, I took a .25 automatic and shot myself in the head. Boom! And a bullet went inside, blew out the top of my head, and I came to on full life support systems at the Antelope Valley Medical Center. And I remember Kim sitting there. We were in a relationship. She said to me one time that it was so damaged that God couldn't even fix it. Okay? The damage that the alcoholism, the insanity, the tornado roaring through lives had done. And here I am on full life support systems coming to a few days later, and they didn't know if I would be okay. And this is where my story gets a little weird. It does, okay? I still continued to drink. And the state of California stepped in. See, we were going through a divorce and all. The state of California stepped in and they charged me with ex-felon with a gun for trying to kill myself. And I went in and I know the game, right? I need rehab. I'm an alcoholic. I'm sick, right? I need help. And I went in and they said, you sure do need help. And he remanded me into custody. And before that whole thing was over, I'm sitting in Chino State Prison and they're striking me out with my fourth strike, giving me 25 to life. And I had a thought. Okay, and my thought was, I want to be sober now, right? I'll work the steps now, right? I'll get a sponsor now, right? We become real spiritual real quick when we go into those places. Well, that relationship that was so damaged, you know, she started a letter campaign. People all over the country wrote letters to this Judge Chelsea McKay in the Lancaster Superior Court. And all different walks of life, from Alcoholics Anonymous, business people, professional people and stuff, wrote this judge. And I'm sitting in Chino State Prison. I'm going to meetings there. I'm 12-stepping people. I'm bringing them through the steps. I mean, I'm trying to get back and get that passion, get that primary purpose back, get back on the firing line of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I knew how hard it was going to be for someone with such a tremendous ego and arrogance that I had displayed towards spiritual principles. Okay, was going to be, those chips and those medallions were going to kill me. And knowing AA and knowing the history of AA and everything, I ended up, I got into a jackpot. I was in the hole for 28 days in prison, and I got a hold of a piece of paper and a pencil. How many people have tried AA? This is not your first time. Okay. How many people came to AA, got sober, and have stayed sober? All right. See, that's the way it's supposed to be, just in case you were wondering the way you guys did it. But that wasn't me, okay? And I got a hold of a piece of paper and a pencil, and I wrote this thing that when one who has wandered far into selfishness and self-centeredness seek to return to the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, he will encounter criticism and distrust. There will be those that whisper he's a newcomer again. I don't think he'll make it this time either. You know, these wicked ones are doing not the work of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous or their higher power, but of their own selfish, self-centered interests. They seek to drive the returning member still farther from hope and from sobriety. You know, let the returning member contemplate the rejoicing in heaven over the return of the one that was lost. Let him in no way be disheartened by the suspicion and scorn of others. He can again walk in the sunlight of the Spirit. Because, see, that's what I felt. This program was founded off love and tolerance, not the judgment and condemnation we give each other around here sometimes. Okay? And if you've ever read the Bible, Daniel in the lion's den or Peter sitting there, the light coming, the chains falling, that's basically my story. Because on October 7th, 1997, Judge Chelsea McKay pulled me out of prison and he stood me in front of him, and the gallery was full of people, and he had all these letters, and he looked and he said, I don't understand this. You seem to have helped a lot of people. How could you do this to yourself? He didn't understand the disease of alcoholism. You know, he didn't understand how we can build this pretty picture to our wives, our kids, our bosses, that this time's different. Please give me one more chance. Please, I'm going to change. I'm going to stop. And we're such good con artists, we get them to give us another chance, and then we get loaded. And we tear the house down. If we're honest with ourselves, we don't know why we do it. You know, he didn't understand this disease, but if whatever way you want to look at it, God touched him or whatever, he struck two of my strikes. He didn't feel I should be in prison for the rest of my life for shooting myself. And he released me the next day with a 5-year tail. You know, and I reassembled my family. See, I jumped in AA like my very life depended on it, okay? And I went through the book, and I got a sponsor, and I redid my steps, and I tried to look at what I missed. And I'm going to tell you what I missed, okay? And I don't usually talk about it, but I'm going to tell you what I missed. Because it says the main purpose is to show us precisely, right, how to recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, right? That's working the steps, okay? It says the main object is to enable me to find the power which is going to solve my problem. And then I missed it, but in working with others, it says the main thing. So we have the main purpose, the main object. Now it says the main thing is that I believe in this power. Oh, but wait. It says, and live along spiritual lines. See, I knew the purpose. I knew the object. I believed. But I wasn't living along spiritual lines. The judgment, the condemnation, I killed myself, my spirit, okay, thinking that I was going to be okay. Not understanding that I don't care whether you got 30 days or 30 years, we're going one of two ways in Alcoholics Anonymous. We're either going towards a drink or we're going away from a drink. Okay, there's no middle of the road solution for people like us. I didn't understand, see, because back then my first sobriety, I wanted to be Mr. AA, I wanted to be the best circuit speaker, right? Travel the country, conventions. I had the best home group. I had the best sponsor. I had most sponsees. I had commitments, everything. Me. Again, and I didn't know it was me. I missed the part that that's not what it's about in AA. It's about what would God have me be. Remember, this is what it says. What would God have me be? Not what Scotty would have me be. Not what I think I would be. Not what I want to be in AA. Am I willing to go where God wants me to go, say what He wants me to say, and just let the chips fall? Yeah. See, that's the difference. Now it's not about, and I've had a wonderful, I'm in my 18th year of sobriety. Okay? Not because I'm any great person. I've just been willing to take a set of directions and actions that I thought wouldn't work again, yet they worked. Reassemble things with my wife. Traveled the world for Alcoholics Anonymous, from Egypt and Italy and the Vatican. I mean, I gave him my 5th year anniversary. He spoke at property of the Vatican over in Rome, Italy. Congress, led a meeting at Congress. My wife and I were invited Speaker of the House in Congress for breakfast. This was right after 9/11. I was on parole. They never asked. Okay? They never asked. She was there, traveling literally all over, from Honduras to Alaska, from Hawaii to Egypt to Canada. I mean, This is all good. But I go into Herkimer County Jail every month. I sponsor people. Okay? I'm sponsored. I go where I need to go and say what I need to say. This is wonderful. You got to understand, the enthusiasm is not like this all over the country. Understand that. Understand that you don't understand how good you really have it. This is not the same. I'm going to tell you a couple quick experiences because I'm out of time. But I'm going to tell you two things, bro. My family. I got 5 kids, 5 grandkids. Worked it out with my son from that first marriage. He's 36, 37 this year. I got grandkids. My other son was in war in Afghanistan, screwed him up, daughters, reassemble with my wife. Now, I think God's funny. I mean, He's funny. Okay? My sponsor taught me that if you ever want to, the only 2 words he ever heard God say was, ha-ha. Okay? Now, you heard part of me, 3% of my story. I got marital problems. Why? Because I'm married, right? I got kid problems because I got kids. I got business problems because I got business. My wife comes to me last year and threw this idea by me. And I said, honey, in AA, you can do whatever you want. Remember, she's in her 31st year of sobriety now. You can do, blah, 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 blah. She got elected judge in New York. She's a freaking judge, okay? I'm being serious. She got elected in the November election. She's a judge. My wife is a judge. And people ask me, how do you feel about her being a judge? And I said, well, she's been judging me for 31 years. It's no different, right? But I think God has a sense of humor. I really do, okay? I don't know where I was going with that. My sponsor calls it Arfy Darfy land. But I'm so proud of her, I mean, it's wonderful. God's a funny God, okay? Couple quick experiences, because we got a lot of women in the room. I was down in Fredericksburg, Virginia, probably 20 years ago. And no, couldn't have been, because I'm over 18. So 17 years ago, approximately. And this woman was taking a 30-year anniversary medallion. She was an old woman. She was a white woman, and she talked about what it was like growing up in the South. And on their block, they had a Mammy, and Mammy was a big black woman, okay? And they would go and sit on Mammy's lap and rub Mammy's arm. And she remembered as a 5-year-old girl, Mammy looking down at her and saying, child, my skin is as dark as the night, but my soul is as white as snow, just like yours. She's a little 5-year-old girl, and she laughs and runs away. 50 years later, in the grips of this disease of alcoholism, the terror, the bewilderment, the frustration, the despair, the hideous 4 horsemen we call, waking up to that, she looked at her skin, and in that surrender, she cried out to God, and she remembered Mammy, and she said, my God, my skin is as white as the snow, but my soul is as dark as the night. Help me, Father. And He did. She was getting 30 years sober. Okay? I just mentioned the word surrender. Surrender is simply when our egos get deflated just enough so we can experience a psychic change that's going to be sufficient enough for us to recover. Dr. T. Bolt wrote a wonderful thing about that. I used to always wonder what that surrender was. It's our egos. Problem is our egos have such a tremendous capacity for resurgence that we got to watch out for that. That's part of suiting up and showing up. Okay. Sitting in prison. Read this thing. Just think about this when you go wherever you're going tonight. It's been a privilege and an honor to be here. It's good to see friends that I haven't seen in many years, that I've been in different parts of the East Coast with, and new friends I haven't met yet. But I want you to think about this because it absolutely hit me between the eyes. And what it was in 1982, I got this poem. It's called The Man in the Glass, and it says that when you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to a mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict that counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear up to the end. And you've passed your most dangerous, difficult test if the man in the glass is your friend. Some people may call you a straight-shooting chum and call you a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of life and get pats on your back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. See, I cheated myself for a long time, both in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't like my booze watered down or my drugs cut. I don't like the program of Alcoholics Anonymous watered down. This is the real deal. If you're an alcoholic, I'd like to welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you.
It's an honor and privilege to have you here, Scott. Thank you very much. It's customary to form a line and thank our speaker. He traveled 6 hours to get here, and will travel 6 hours back. What an honor to have you in Doylestown. We do this every week. Hopefully we'll see you next week. We're on Facebook, Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. Follow it. We always have some pretty decent speakers here, and Scott's testament to thank you again. And we got a nice way of closing. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you. We go to Perkins afterwards. You're all invited if you'd like to come. Thank you.